Hello friends, welcome to i-TUTOR NCERT series. Today we are going to discuss Class 12 Geography NCERT Fundamentals of Human Geography Chapter 8 International Trade. So what do you mean by trade? What is trade? Trade means the voluntary exchange of goods and service. Okay, so what is called a trade? It is the voluntary exchange of goods and the services. Two parties are required to trade. One person sells and the other purchases or buys. In certain places, people barter their goods. Okay, so we know the barter system. For both the parties, trade is mutually beneficial. Trade may be conducted at two levels, that is international and national. International trade is the exchange of goods and services among countries across national boundaries. Okay, so what is international trade? It's the exchange of goods and services among countries across national boundaries. Countries need to trade to obtain commodities they cannot produce themselves or they can purchase elsewhere at a lower price. The initial form of the trade in primitive societies was the barter system, where direct exchange of goods took place. Okay, so what is barter system? That is the direct exchange of goods take place. Okay, so there is no money value or there is no not the there is money have not importance in that system or in the barter system. Okay, so that is mainly performed by the primitive societies. Now, next one is the difficulties of barter system were overcome by the introduction of money. In the olden times, before paper and coins currency came into being, rare objects with a very high intrinsic value served as money, like flintstones, obsidians, cowrie shells, tiger's paws, whale's teeth, dog's teeth, skins, furs, cattle, rice, peppercorns, salt, small tools, copper, silver, and gold. So, before introducing the money, what people used these things for the exchange of commodities. Now, history of international trade. In ancient, in ancient time, transporting goods over long distance was risky. Hence, trade was restricted to a local market. People then spent most of their resources on basic necessities, that is, food and clothes. Only the rich people brought jewelry, costly dresses, and this resulted in trade of luxury items. The Silk Route is an early example of long distance trade connecting Rome to China along 6,000 km route. The traders transported Chinese silk, Roman wool, and precious metals and many other high value commodities from intermediate points in India, Persia, and Central Asia. Okay, so that is the Silk Route. After the disintegration of Roman Empire, European commerce grew during 12th and 13th century with the development of ocean-going warships. Trade between Europe and Asia grew and the Americas were discovered. 15th century onwards, the European colonialism began and along with the trade of exotic commodities, a new form of trade emerged which was called slave trade. The Portuguese, Dutch, Spanish, and British captured African natives and forcefully transported them to newly discovered Americas for their labor in the plantation. Okay, so the British, the Dutch, Portuguese, Spanish, so these people they captured the African natives and they forcefully transported them to the Americas for labor in the plantations. Slave trade was lucrative business for more than 200 years till it was abolished in Denmark in 1792, then Great Britain in 1807 and the United States in 1808. After the Industrial Revolution, on the demand for raw materials like grains, meat, wool also expanded, but their monetary value declined in relation to the manufactured goods. The industrialized nations imported primary products as raw materials and exported the value-added finished products back to the non-industrialized nations. In the later half of the 19th century, regions producing primary goods were no more important and industrial nations became each other's principal customer. During the World War First and Second, countries imposed trade taxes and quantitative restrictions for the first time. During the post-war period, organizations like General Agreement for Tariff and Trade helped in reducing tariff. Okay, so during the post-war period, what the organization like a General Agreement for Tariff and Trade, that is GATT. Okay, so which helped in reducing tariff. Now, this GATT that is later changed into World Trade Organization WTO. Okay, so the GATT is changed into WTO. Now, why does international trade exist? International trade is the result of specialization in production. It benefits the world economy if different countries practice specialization and division of labor in the production of commodities or provisions or services. Each kind of specialization can give rise to trade. Thus, international trade is based on the principle of comparative advantage, complementary and transferable of goods and services, and in principle should be mutually beneficial to the trading partners. In modern times, trade is the basis of the world's economic organization and is related to the foreign policy of nations. With well-developed transportation and communication system, no country is willing to forego the benefits derived from participation in international trade. Now, basis of international trade. What are the bases of international trade? First one, difference in national resources. The world's national resources are unevenly distributed because of difference in their physical makeup. Example, geology, relief soil, and the climate. Now, second one is geological structure. It determines the mineral resources base and topographical differences ensure diversity of crops and animal raised. Lowlands have greater agriculture potential. Mountains attract tourists and promote tourism. So that is the geological structure. Now, mineral resources. They are unevenly distributed the world over. The availability of minerals resources provide the basis of industrial development. Next one is climate. It influences the type of flora and fauna that can survive in a given region. It also ensures diversity in the range of various products. Example, wool production can take place in cold regions, bananas, rubber and cocoa can grow in tropical regions. So that is the importance of climate. Now, population factors. The size, distribution and diversity of people between countries affect the type and volume of goods traded. Now, cultural factors. Distinctive forms of art and craft develop in certain culture which are valued the world over. Example, China produces the finest porcelains and brocades. Carpets of Iran are famous while North Africa leather work and Indonesian batik clothes are praised handicraft. Now, size of population. Densely populated countries have a large volume of internal trade but little external trade because most of the agriculture and industrial production is consumed in the local markets. Okay. Now, standard of living of population determines the demand for better quality imported products because with the low standard of living, only a few people can afford to buy clothes, buy costly imported goods. Okay, so some people can only afford to buy the costly imported goods. Okay. Now, stage of economic development. What is stage of economic development? At different stages of economic development of countries, the nature of items traded undergo changes. In agriculturally important countries, agro products are exchanged for manufactured goods, whereas industrialized nations export machinery and finished products and import food grains and other raw materials. Okay, so this is the stage of economic development. First one, at different stages of economic development of countries, the nature of item traded undergo changes. In agriculturally important countries, the agro products are exchanged for manufactured goods, whereas industrialized nations export machinery and finished products. They are and import food grains and other raw materials. Okay, so they export machinery and finished products and they import food grains and other raw materials. Now, extent of foreign investment. Okay, what is extent of foreign investment? Foreign investment can boost trade in developing countries. Okay, so the foreign investment. Okay, so the foreign investment can boost trade in developing countries which lack in capital required for the development of mining, oil drilling, heavy engineering, lumbering, and plantation agriculture. By developing such capital intensive industries in developing countries, the industrial nations ensure import of foodstuffs, minerals, and create market for the finished products. This entire cycle steps up the volume of trade between nations. Now, transport. In olden times, lack of adequate and efficient means of transport restricted trade to local areas. Only high value items, that is gems, silks, and spices were traded over long distance. Okay, so because they have a lack of adequate and efficient transport. Now, with the expansion of rail, ocean, and air transport, better means of refrigeration and preservation, trade has experienced spatial expansion. Okay, so due to these factors, the trade has experienced a spatial expansion. Now, balance of trade. What is balance of trade? Balance of trade records the volume of goods and services imported as well as exported by country to other countries. Okay, so it is the volume of goods and services imported as well as exported by a country to other country. If the value of imports is more than the value of the country's export, the country have negative or unfavorable balance of trade. Okay, so if the value of import is more than the value of export, okay, import is more than export, then what is called? It is negative balance of trade. Okay, now if the value of export is more than the value of import, the value of export is more than the value of import, then the country have a positive or favorable balance of trade. Okay, so then country have positive or favorable trade, favorable balance of trade. Balance of trade and balance of payments have serious implications for a country's economy. A negative balance would mean that the country spends more on buying goods than it can earn by selling its goods. This would ultimately lead to exhaustion of the financial reserves. Now, types of international trade. Okay. International trade may be categorized into two types. First one, bilateral trade and multilateral trade. Bilateral trade is done by two countries with each other. Okay, so if India and China or India and America, India and USA, if they have a trade between them, then it is called bilateral trade. They enter into agreement to trade specified commodities amongst them. For example, country A may agree to trade some raw materials with agreement to purchase some other specified items to country B or vice versa. Okay, so that is the bilateral trade, the trade between two countries. Now, what is multilateral trade? As the term suggests, multilateral trade is conducted with many trading countries. The same country can trade with number of other countries. The country may also grant the status of the most favored nation, that is MFN, on some of the trading partners. Now, case for free trade. The act of opening up economies for trading is known as free trade or trade liberalization. Okay, so the act of opening up economies for trading, then it's known as free trade or the trade liberalization. This is done by bringing down trade barriers like tariff. Trade liberalization allows goods and services from everywhere to compete with domestic products and services. Globalization, along with free trade, can adversely affect the economies of developing countries by not giving equal playing field by imposing conditions which are unfavorable. With the development of transport and communication systems, goods and services can travel fast and further than ever before. But free trade should not only let rich countries enter the markets, but allow the developed countries to keep their own markets protected from foreign products. Countries also need to be cautious about dumped goods, as along with the free trade, dumped goods of cheaper prices can harm the domestic producers. Now, World Trade Organization. Okay. It is WTO. In 1948, to liberalize the world from high customs tariff and various other types of restrictions, General Agreement for Tariffs and Trade, that is GATT, was formed by some countries. In 1994, it was decided by the member countries to set up a permanent institution for looking after the promotion of free and fair trade amongst nations, and the GATT was transformed in the World Trade Organization from the 1st January 1995. The WTO is the only international organization dealing with the global rules of trade between nations. It sets It sets the rule of the global trading system and resolves disputes between its member nations. WTO also covers trade in services such as telecommunication and banking, and other issues such as intellectual rights. Okay. The WTO has, however, been criticized and opposed by those who are worried about the effect of free trade and economic globalization. Okay, so the WTO are also being criticized by many countries, which because they are afraid of the free trade and economic globalization. It is argued that free trade does not make ordinary people's lives more prosperous. It's actually widening the gulf between rich and poor by making rich countries more rich. This is because the influential nations in the WTO focus on their own commercial interest. Moreover, many developed countries have not fully opened their markets to produce from developing countries. It's also argued that issues of health, workers' rights, child labor, and environment are ignored. Okay, now the WTO headquarters are located in Geneva, Switzerland. 166 countries were members of the WTO as on December 2024. Okay, so there is 166 countries, and India has been one of the founder member of the WTO. Okay, so these are some of the factors about the WTO. Now, regional trade blocs. Regional trade blocs have come up in order to encourage trade between countries with geographical proximity, similarity, and complementarity in trading items, and to curb restrictions on trade of the developing world. Today, 120 regional trade blocs generate 52% of the world trade. These trading blocs developed as a response to the failure of the global organizations to speed up intra-regional trade. Though these regional blocs remove trade tariffs within the member nations and encourage free trade, in the future it could get increasingly difficult for free trade to take place between different trading blocs. Okay, this is the regional trade blocs. Now, concerns related to international trade. Undertaking international trade is mutually beneficial to nations if it leads to a regional specialization, higher level of production, better standard of living, worldwide availability of goods and services, equalization of prices and wages, and a diffusion of knowledge and culture. International trade can prove to be detrimental to a nation of its leads to depends on the other countries. Uneven levels of development, exploitation, and commercially rivalry leading to wars. Global trade affects many aspects of life. It can impact everything from the environment to health and well-being of the people around the world. As countries compete to trade more, production and the use of natural resources spiral up. Resources gets used up faster than they can be replenished. As a result, marine life is also depleting fast. Okay, and also forests are being cut down and the river basins sold off to private drinking water companies. Multinational corporations trading in oil, gas mining, pharmaceuticals, and agribusiness keep expanding their operations at all costs, creating more pollution. Their mode of work does not follow the norms of sustainable development. If organizations are geared only towards profit making and environmental and health concerns are not addressed, then it could lead to serious implications in the future. Now, gateways of international trade ports. Okay, The chief gateways of the world of international trade are the harbors and ports. Cargoes and travelers pass from one part of the world to another through this port. The ports provide facilities of docking, loading, unloading, and storage facilities for cargo. In order to provide these facilities, the port authorities make arrangements for maintaining navigable channels, arranging tugs and barges, and providing labor and managerial services. The importance of a port is judged by the size of cargo and the number of ships handled. The quantity of cargo handled by a port is an indicator of the level of development of its hinterland. Now, types of port. Generally, ports are classified according to the types of traffic which they handled. Types of port according to cargo handled. Okay, so generally the ports are classified according to the types of traffic which they handle. Then types of port according to cargo handled. So types of port according to cargo handled. First one, industrial ports. These ports specialized in bulk cargo like grain, sugar, ore, oil, chemicals and similar materials. Now commercial ports. These ports handled general cargo packaged products and manufactured goods. These ports also handled passenger traffics. Now comprehensive port. Such ports handled bulk and general cargo in large volumes. Most of the world's great ports are classified as comprehensive ports. Now, types of port on the basis of location. First one, inland ports. These ports are located away from the sea coast. Okay, so the inland ports are located away from the sea coast. They are linked to the sea through a river or a canal. Such ports are accessible to flat bottom ships or barges. For example, Manchester is linked with a canal, and Memphis is located on the river Mississippi. Rhine has several ports like Mannheim and Duisburg, and Kolkata is located on the river Hooghly, a branch of river Ganga. Okay, so these are some of the examples of inland ports. Now outports. These are deep water ports built away from the actual ports. These serve the parent ports by receiving those ships which are unable to approach them due to the large size. Classic combination, for example, is the Athens and its outport Piraeus in Greece. Now, types of port on the basis of specialized function. First one, oil ports. These ports deal in the processing and shipping of oil. Okay, so oil ports are mainly for the processing and shipping of oil. Some of these are tanker ports and some are refinery ports. Maracaibo in Venezuela, Iskahira in Tunisia, Tripoli in Lebanon are the tanker ports. Now, Abadan on the Gulf of Persian is a refinery port. Now, ports of call. These are ports which originally developed as calling points on main sea routes where ships used to anchor for refueling, watering and taking food items. Later on, they developed into commercial ports. Aden, Honolulu and Singapore are such examples. Now, packet station. These are also known as ferry ports. These packet stations are exclusively concerned with the transportation of passengers and mail across water bodies covering short distances. These stations occur in pairs located in such a way that they face each other across the water body. Example, Dover in England and Calais in France across the English Channel. Now, entry port ports. Okay, entry port ports. These are collections centers where the goods are brought from different countries of export. Okay, for export. So these are the collection centers where the goods are brought from different countries for export. Singapore is an entreport for Asia. Rotterdam for Europe and Copenhagen for Baltics region. Now, naval ports. These are ports which have only strategic importance. These ports serve warship and have repair workshops for them. Kochi and Karwar are examples of such ports in India. Okay, so that's all about the chapter. If you have any doubts, you can comment below. For more videos, do like, share, subscribe.